Explorer and photojournalist Paul Nicklen was born in Tisdale, Saskatchewan, raised on Baffin Island, now spends his time in some of the world's most remote environments, all in pursuit of these powerful wildlife photos. And it has certainly paid off, garnering him no fewer than 4 BBC Wildlife Photographer of the Year awards among his many, many accolades. Paul is in Calgary to share the stories behind the photos tomorrow night as part of the Epcor Center's National Geographic Live Speaker Series. But first, he has stopped by the BT studios. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Your photos are extraordinary and beautiful. Let's kind of go back to your background. You're a biologist, first of all. And how did you pick up the camera?
It actually came out of frustration. I was a biologist working on incredible species. I was out on the sea ice working on polar bears and incredible adventures, but at the end of a big expedition, we would just have a few data sheets to show for it. And I thought if I could just bridge the gap between this important science and the public by, say, working for National Geographic, now you have the chance to tell 40 million people this important story rather than just a few colleagues, fellow scientists. So it's been an effective way to communicate.
What is the story? I mean, the story has to be the melting polar ice caps for you at this point.
The stories are everywhere, and I'll share a bunch of them at the Epcor, but I think for my main underlying theme of all my work, whether I'm working in Antarctica or working in the Arctic, is that the ice is disappearing due to warming temperatures. And I just want to constantly remind people that if we lose ice, we stand to lose entire ecosystems. You know, stand to lose polar bears, seals, narwhals, bowhead whales, beluga whales. You know, it's not just that we're losing ice. I mean, yes, we're losing ice, but what are the effects of the loss of ice?
You've called yourself a translator and an interpreter. Do you feel like you need to sort of lend a voice or a lens so that we can actually put visuals to
Absolutely. I mean, we're a visual species. I mean, we've been telling stories around the campfire since the beginning of time, and that's how we think and that's how we communicate. So I'm putting faces and names to the issues that are in front of us.
Do you feel at all optimistic at this point? I mean, is it getting harder and harder for you to look at these beautiful creatures and know?
It's very hard to be out on the ice. It's very hard to be out there for months at a time and see the effects of the loss of ice and to see, you know, polar bears struggling. But then I come back and you see a shift in people's perception, knowledge, and their behavior and their patterns. So you start to feel a sense of hope. Yes, we're going to lose species. Yes, we're going to lose a lot of habitat. But, you know, I have to be hopeful. The only emotion greater than fear is hope. And so we have to tap into that.
Where did this, what you call a polar obsession, where did this come from?
I grew up in Baffin Island as a kid in, you know, a little tiny Inuit community called Kimmerud, Lake Harbor back then, and we didn't have television, radio, we didn't even have a telephone. So I spent all of my time outside playing with the kids. Ice and snow were my sandbox. So I had no choice. You know, we played stupid, silly little games like lying in snowbanks to see who could last out the blizzard the longest, and lost all feeling. And my mother said, "Please quit telling people that story. It's kind of embarrassing." But I mean, so I just fell in love with icy polar realms, and I didn't know that I was getting the training necessary that would allow me to do the work that I do diving under polar ice, you know, getting borderline hypothermic to come back with these images.
Well, talk a little bit more about the sort of the danger that you've been exposing yourself to. Have you ever been in a tricky situation with getting up close and personal to animals?
Oh, definitely. I've had a lot of moments. I'm not the brightest guy when it comes to animals. I'm like, well, that sounds it. Let's just jump in with this. I've jumped in with 8,000-pound breeding elephant seals thinking it would be, you know, good for pictures, and I almost got crushed and killed. Had to be pulled out from underneath an elephant seal. I've crashed 2 ultralight airplanes, one upside down in a lake, one into the ice, and we'll tell all those stories at my talk. But yeah, I've done a lot of silly things, and I've had a lot of moments that have been interesting. But you know, it's not as dangerous as driving on the highway. You know.
Well, there you go.
There you go.
Now, your body of work is extraordinary. Is there one photo that you still are hoping to get in your life, a bucket list photo, as it were?
Oh, I have so many. I haven't even started. I mean, I'm off to photograph killer whales underwater in Norway coming up, and you know, I'm going back to Antarctica. I mean, it's for sure. I haven't even started the things I want to photograph around the world.
Well, your photos are absolutely incredible, and your story is as well. National Geographic Live, Polar Obsession with Paul Nicklen at the Epcor Center for the Performing Arts. It's tomorrow at 7 o'clock, and I do urge you to check out Paul's work. Really beautiful stuff. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks very much for having me. Appreciate it.